One of the strange places I landed when I was on my journey to heal my relationship with wealth was actually asking myself what my value system was. What did I value in myself, in the world? If I dreamed of having my, all of my visions and my desires coming true, what would that look like practically? Where would I live? What would the house look like? How much would such a house cost? And again, this isn't about the dollars and cents of it, but I didn't realize until I was like several months into my wealth journey, of which crypto was a big part, but it wasn't just about what I invested in or what I chose to learn about. There's actually so much woven into wealth, right? It sits in our power zone, our root. So it's also our relationship with power, which was very uncomfortable for me as I first started learning and journeying about it. And it is quite interesting, right? So money is a tool that allows us to exchange. What did we have before money? The barter system. And that certainly has its pros, but it's also a little limiting. It's not quite scalable. And so money served a simple and brilliant purpose. It's kind of like sliced bread in a way, right? I have a thing, you have a thing, and maybe someone else doesn't have a thing, but they have this, piece of gold or piece of silver. And we all attribute a value to it, which is really the basis of currency, right? Like, how do you know what is the value of a $20 bill? So is the value the paper it is printed on? Is the value the stamp from the mint? Probably, because counterfeit money doesn't have like the mint stamp, which is what makes it counterfeit. And so, we have these things that we prescribe value to. I really like herbs and teas and plants. To me, they're medicine, essential oils as well. So I put a much higher value on it than, say, someone who does not drink a lot of, roots and leaves and tea. To them, red raspberry flower does not carry a lot of meaning and as such a lot of value. But here we have money where we agree and it's shared value. And so is power like that as well? So when I actually had, and I did actually have to do this repeatedly a few times, when I sat with the ideas and almost the belief systems that I had held around power, and especially how it shows up in the world, it was, quite troubling. Power, like money, is something that you have when you take it from someone else. For me to be powerful or wealthy, maybe someone else has to be powerless or poor. And if all of this is true, was this a place I want to be? Was this a place I want to, is this part of my value system? And these are interesting questions because right now we all are in this point where we are at this precipice where great change is possible. We have a lot of these, old systems, for example, the cash money system and things like that. And then we have these new systems, cryptocurrency, digital gold and silver. And we sort of have to know ourselves and figure out where we're going to be. Are we going to hang on to this old stuff simply because it's all we've known? Are we going to maybe dip a toe in here, see if we like it? Are we centered, stable, confident, able to, and in a place within ourselves and in our lives where we even have time to explore what all of this new stuff might be? And if we find that this new stuff isn't for us, can we alchemize it? Can we transform it? Again, these are all elements that sit in the root system of the body. And what is money if not an alchemic element, right? Like if I receive dollars in my hand or in my bank account, and I want to buy flowers, you know, the magical person in me perceives that, oh, this money has now transformed into these flowers that I have now bought for me. And the same with food and clothes and houses and whatever we want to buy. But the value system here is very important, both within the person as well as for the shared collective, because some of us value, you know, trees and rivers and aspects of the natural world perhaps more than others. And again, this is not about whether one is good or bad, but if I value something, it is then important to me to take care of it. It's important to me to honor it, to show up to it and for it. And again, I really like sitting with what we value when it comes to the wealth vibration, because it shows us if we put our money where our mouth is. And if not, why is that? Is an external or internal factor enabling or disabling us from doing so? So, you know, there is a lot of truth to be had when you embark on your wealth journey, because when you start to see where your money and the physical manifestation of your energy goes, and it's reflected back to you through your, you know, bank account or however else, you get to see, is this actually where I want to be spending my money? Do I want to support a system that was built maybe at a certain time, maybe at a certain context, and I don't really know if it has place right now in the new world? I really like this book. It's called The Fourth Turning. I forget the name of the author, but it's this great book on understanding, I think, the contemporary economy and financial structure, but it's almost written from the view of seasons and these seasonal archetypes. And intuitively, it makes a lot of sense. You know, there are times when the market and the cycles and stuff are going crazy. In that moment, it's possibly a time to save and to be a little bit more conservative for those days, weeks, months. And then natural things happen, the cycles can change, and it's a cycle of abundance, kind of like summer. And then when there's abundance, you spend, you buy, you invest, you know, risk and scarcity aren't really of question. And it's a little bit like the seasons. It's a lot like agriculture cycles, or just, you know, cycles of a forest. You don't have flowers wanting to burst forth and blossom in their color and in their fragrance when it's the peak of winter and you live in the subarctic. They blossom in the season that they're meant to, and within the span of the summer, certain flowers blossom in the early parts and certain flowers blossom in the late parts. And there is a wisdom and a knowing in the land, in the earth, in the flower encoded into the seed and in the flower itself. And to me, that's a lot of where our wealth is. If you are truly a generous person and you give to a lot of charities and you support your friends, your neighbors, your family, and something happened and you lost your investments and you lost your job, I would think it is more than reasonable to, you know, maybe still give, but perhaps not as much. That would make sense to me. But again, we sometimes get caught up in things. A lot of people might feel guilty. Well, they may not want to tell someone that they're cutting down or cutting off things. And there's so much shame and awkwardness associated with wealth and with money and with status. And I think that's why I really enjoy the crypto space, because everyone is just figuring it out together. There's, I think because it's so new, there isn't a lot of statusness established. So, you know, there's some really cool people that I really like to follow. And one of them, you know, he talked recently about that time he lost his 2 Bitcoin, which is worth a lot of money today. But, you know, we all bumble, we all make mistakes, and we're all learning together. And I think because it's so new, you don't have a lot of that fear, judgment, shame, guilt associated with it. I'm sure if you really want to bring that to the space, I suppose you could, but from what I can see, at least right now, in the larger collective that is involved in cryptocurrencies, that certainly isn't the case. And one of the other things around, when we're learning to heal our relationship with wealth and money, it's seeing that our wealth isn't just about money. Our wealth is our communities, right? Like are you someone who has friends or family that you can rely on if you lost your job or your income or your house? If you couldn't pay groceries, do you have a lovely neighbor that would make extra food for you? That to me is wealth. That is way greater than the sum of the cost of the ingredients. A big thing that I think I missed for sure is the trust in our own ability to make money. So a lot of people get really paralyzed when they lose their jobs, especially if they've been in jobs for a long time, because they are their job and this is just what they think this is what they are, simply because it's what they've done for the last few years. And how true that is, that is a question. I have this friend who, I don't think this has ever happened to her, but when she felt like, she was losing a career or something wasn't working well, she was perfectly happy to get a job at a grocery store as a barista, to get money going so she could pay rent. And she saw it as, it's a drop in income, but at least my rent is paid. And then I can think about what I'm going to do next. She wasn't for a second paralyzed by this notion of a change in career or a drop in income. And I find that inner wealth that some people have naturally, and I didn't have it naturally, I had to build it. But once you have it, you learn to trust in yourself. And when there's trust, you learn to see opportunities where you might not have seen before because you're too clouded in panic or in lack. And I find that interesting. Opportunities are a huge piece of wealth. So is availability. Are you really wealthy, but you live in some island in the middle of nowhere, and the land isn't really that arable? Because money is great, but you can't eat it if you do not have access to clean water, if you don't have access to food. All of these things contribute to our wealth vibration. They make us constricted or miserly, or they make us expansive and generous. And I don't think there is one perfect way to be. I mean, obviously being expansive and generous is the ideal scenario, but there might be times where we have to set some really clear boundaries with people we know, people we love. Boundaries in our own lives, in our own being, is a huge part of how, the root chakra expresses itself. If you've ever been manipulated or guilted into giving someone money, or you've been the person who guilted and manipulated someone else, that is all an exchange of boundaries being crossed. That is a huge deal with money. And so all of this, the emotions around it, the social familial constructs, the structures, the values, the value we attribute to money, to currency, to ourselves, the trust in ourselves, the trust in, whoever is around us, our support system, our inner resources, all of that contributes to wealth. So simply complaining about a lack of money or a lack of opportunities, to me, is a very narrow understanding of a much larger vibration that is available now for us to really work with and own. So one of the things I would perhaps invite you to do, and I was invited to do this, is if you are, the next time you're, looking at your online banking statement, for the month, for the year, however, really ask yourself, because that would be a present thing for you, right? Like it would be in the present, in the last month or 6 months or something like that. But if you were to imagine the life you wanted, and if you decided to spend your currency, your money, towards the life you wanted, towards the version of yourself that was wealthy, healthy, happy, whole, generous, vibrant, free, with lots of opportunities, with lots of travel, with lots of all of the things you want, would your expense account look the way it does today? Where can it be adjusted? Where can it be expanded? Are you spending so much money on yourself that you've forgotten about, friends and family and people who might be in need? Is your value system in one place, like you want like a house or a farm or something like that, but you're spending a lot of money on Uber Eats? Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I think there's a great damage in doing an activity like this if you're interested in judging yourself. So if that's where you're at the moment, I would suggest tabling this activity for a different time, but really without judgment, because slowly, like cent by cent, dollar by dollar, we are starting to move from the systems and the patterns and the behaviors that we have had, that perhaps we've been indoctrinated into, that perhaps that we've inherited, into where we want to go. And in that change, we empower ourselves. And again, there's nothing wrong with Uber Eats. But if you're trying to save for something, or if you're trying to move towards something, or, a lot of people do not invest in themselves, in their education, in their health, in their own, being, because, they don't have money. But where is your money going? Is it going towards, dinners and like 17 dinners a month with friends? Could that be cut down to maybe 10? And then you suddenly have some money to put towards you. And how we save, where we allocate, like these are all very interesting questions. Your money will reflect a very visceral truth to you. And it will not likely be a comfortable truth. And that's okay, because the whole point in doing this is that you are trying to find the doorway that enables you to journey into yourself and to really be the change in the world. I often find it when you watch a show, or you watch something from the Discovery Channel, and you look at the plight of the polar bears or something like that. When I sit with it and I think about, I can go and, spend $30 or $50 and buy the bear from the World Wildlife Federation, if that really uplifts you and you can see it helping in the moment, that's great. For me, it does not. I'm buying a bear made of what, like polyester? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really do that. It doesn't really help me personally. But what does help me is finding local Native communities. I don't live near polar bears, but within the province that I live in, there are, other bears of the non-polar variety. And there is, a lot of local community work done to support their habitat, their food supply, clean rivers and fish for them. And so if that's truthfully important to me, can I find those spaces, through crypto or otherwise? And can my dollar actually go there? I am a fan of local, local, organic, ethical, and changing my wardrobe, piece by piece to aligning to my value system was a huge deal. It in a sense changed how I looked and how I showed up in the world. And it actually wasn't an easy change, because if I really liked something and it wasn't, organic, ethical, all of this stuff, I didn't allow myself to buy it. I also had to go through a ton of learning and research, because not every certification intuitively means what you think it means. And you actually have to understand the true cost and the impact of the clothes that you wear, the purses, the bags. Like, you are paying for an item that you're wearing to not only be produced, but the money that you pay for this includes the cost or doesn't include the cost of when you get rid of this item and it ends up in landfill. So if you own a lot of polyester, the cost of that is passed down, likely not to you, but likely to the generation after you. Maybe it's not even in your country, because a lot of times we ship things to other countries. So again, this really comes back to our value system and where our money is going. Are our thoughts, our ideas, our notions of ourselves aligned with our dollars and our cents? And these are big questions, so really sit with this one on your journey into your wealth. Have a great day.